Namaste. Welcome to the third session of Vedic Unified Theory VUT101. As has been our practice, we will devote first few minutes, about 12 minutes, to Patanjali meditation based on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. There are 3 steps. First, we discipline our body. We sit in a posture that is comfortable and unwavering for next few minutes. Then we discipline our breathing. Let's do the 3 cycles. Here it begins. Deep breathe out, abdomen shrinking inward. Hold the breath out. No abdominal movement. Deep breathe in, abdomen expanding outward. Hold the breath within. No abdominal movement. The second cycle, deep breathe out, abdomen shrinking inward. Hold the breath out. No abdominal movement. Deep breathe in, abdomen expanding outward. Hold the breath within. No abdominal movement. Similarly, the third and final cycle, deep breathe out. Hold the breath out. Deep breathe in. Hold it within. That was our second step to discipline our breathing. We are taking a pause for a moment. The purpose is to disconnect our mind from breathing. Now the third and final step, we discipline our mind, reciting Gayatri Mantra twice, once in the regular normal volume, then in the whispering sound. After that, we are in a quiet meditative mood. Just observe in your upper forehead, there is a sky-like expanse and nothing is happening. Should you think that, should you feel a thought wave is entering in your domain, or there is mental activity, then you instruct your mind mentally reciting the sound. Oh. Again, buy some moments of peace, quiet mind. Again, if there is mental activity, again instruct your mind with this code word, oh. Now we begin our third step, final step, and go in meditation. Here it begins, the Gayatri Mantra. Om Bhurbhuva Swa Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodaya. Om Bhurbhuva Swa Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodaya. We will be rubbing our palms gently and then open your eyes casually. That was our brief meditation. We are ready to move on to the third session of Vedic Unified Theory of Consciousness. Let's get the slides. Today's title is Who Am I? As we know very well, once we are in this world and get some maturity, then we begin to wonder what is this world and where am I placed? And also, what do I do with it? What we call our life. So, unless I know myself well, am I this body alone or my mind or what is it? If I don't know myself thoroughly, I cannot optimize my life properly. So that's why this is a very important question, and that's where we will see how Vedic unified theory can establish certain principles. And if it makes sense, this can be presented to the mainstream scientific community. So very first statement is that of Vedic unified theory is that there is a non-physical tiny consciousness. Very first thing we observe anybody in the world is so many things around us, like in this hall, they lack consciousness. They are material things, they are visible to us, but they don't have consciousness. We are different from so many other things that we are a conscious being. And all these things are made of matter. So it is very reasonable to say that consciousness is the property of something which is non-material. So that is a starting assumption, so to say. It has to be proven, but it sounds like a reasonable assumption that within me there is something which is non-material, or I can say non-physical, tiny consciousness. It must be like a tiny singularity. So TC, in day-to-day language, people use the term, I'm not getting my cursor, but no problem. I think I can play with the slides forward and backward. So TC is a singularity. A simplest singularity is a point we learn in a geometry that has no length or width, but it exists, it has a location. It is slightly advanced mathematics. There is a function called delta function, which is very large value at a point and is zero elsewhere. But its integral of delta x dx going from minus infinity to plus infinity is 1. So, this is kind of a Gaussian distribution if you are familiar with it. As the height increases, it will become very narrow and narrow. In the limiting case, it will be infinite at that particular point. That is a singularity. But its integral is 1. These are mathematical, conceptual things, but they are realistic in the sense point is very much a real entity. I want to ask you to imagine a tiny lamp, like we have so many here, which are emitting light, and then take a limit as if that filament is very, very small to the extent it is 0 dimension. This becomes a conceptual lamp now. But if you can imagine such a lamp, then that lamp is emitting light. And you can see the physical light. Now somebody asks, what is the lamp? Which is not visible because it has no dimension. But since it is a source of light, wherever is the source of light, I will say that is the lamp. And if somebody says, what is the light? What does the lamp do? I will say it emits light. And that point from where the light is being emitted, 360 degrees, is the lamp as well as source of light. Because otherwise it has no existence. This is the sole attribute of that. Imagine that lamp and light is all the same for that particular conceptual lamp. Then we will say our tiny consciousness is exactly like that, except instead of that physical light, it is emitting inner light of consciousness. So when that is emitting inner light of consciousness, like I am able to wave my hands, because that consciousness is being permeated up to my hands. Okay, I can lift my phone using my hand, and that is also waving now. Just because my hand is waving, the phone is also going up and down. But my consciousness is limited to my hands and fingers. It is not being transmitted to the phone set, is it not? If somebody touches the phone or hits it, that doesn't pain me. If somebody hits my hand, it pains me. So my consciousness is limited to the boundaries of my body. Though I can lift a phone, it doesn't mean my consciousness is being transferred, is being permeated to the phone. So this is just an example to show you that this is how I am functioning in the world with the instruments of, so to say, body and mind. They are so well connected that I can let my inner light of consciousness go through them, pass through them. So that way, as if the delta function is in the daytime, it is wider. Is it not? When I go to sleep, that same delta function will become very narrow. Then I am limiting my consciousness to myself. Is it that? So that's what this tiny consciousness is like. It has, of course, its intrinsic strength is its consciousness, but that consciousness has 3 explicit powers. What is it? It is ability to know, experience, and act. Sanskrit terms are mentioned, but if you don't follow them, no problem. But if you follow them, it may help you understand it. So sometimes I write it and I say it out, but I always tell that Sanskrit should not be necessary in this kind of presentation. So the terms are Jyatyatva, Bhoktyatva, Kartyatva. He is the knower, so to say, experiencer and actor, jnata, bhokta, and karta. And for that to happen, it needs instruments of body and mind, which we'll discuss in the next slide. But with these instruments, you know, like I can make an advanced gadget, say a robotic device, but that may behave something like us, but it doesn't quite know. Like, let me say this particular laptop I am using. Many books in it which I read once in a while, a lot of files, etc. Those books are embodiment of knowledge. They contain words. When I read them, they make some sense to me and I derive knowledge. But nobody will say that this laptop has that knowledge. Laptop is not quite known. And of course, it's even a robotic device, very advanced device we may make, but that will never have the experience of joy and pain of life. And also, it cannot act. Like there is a car moving on the street, but we have an idea that there is a conscious human being who is causing the car to move. And even if it is a driverless car, we will say some human being is exercising his control and he is doing what is called, he is the karta, he is the causing the action. So these three powers I have slightly, because nowadays in technology we have advanced devices, so there may be some confusion in somebody's mind, but this is a very important point to understand, that consciousness has these three intrinsic powers and no material thing in the world exhibit these powers. That is very important to understand. That's what consciousness is. No problem. So this, as I come into this world, my tiny consciousness is enveloped by mind. So TC requires instruments of mind and body to use these powers. The three powers we have discussed. Without them, it has the powers, but it cannot use it. TC is enveloped by mind as thumb in a fist. So this is a metaphor we use it, that thumb in a fist, thumb is representing my tiny soul, and that is enveloped by palm, which represents my mind. So there is a tiny shell somewhere in the head region with very, very small dimension, subatomic dimension. Of course, that makes it clear that this tiny shell we are talking about, which is TC plus mind, tiny consciousness, which enters in first in father's body and then mother's body. And then gradually I grow in my gross body and become an independent human being. But this shell, because the way it enters into father's body, nobody can see it. It is a very, very tiny shell. That is an important observation. Though it is in the head region, it is a very tiny shell. Because, the brain is quite gross structure, but somewhere within the brain, in some corner, is sitting myself plus mind. So, of course, in this description, my mind is not my brain. It is a tiny shell surrounding, enveloping my tiny consciousness. And that mind carries some data from previous life. That's how we see in the world. Somebody has certain talents which are maybe absent in his mother and father, but he is exhibiting certain talents, might have come from his previous life, one or more previous life. So this is a groundwork we are just placing on the table. And then we want to discuss if this can describe all that we've seen, how a human being or other animals, how do they function. So let's look at it. So this is me and my intellect. So as I said, the mind is the palm which is enveloping my consciousness. And you will see in the next few slides the description. The palm will be said to have three layers. The innermost layer, that is what I am always facing. The technical term we use is buddhi. Its English translation is intellect. So what I'm saying is this is almost like our desktop. This is where we function every moment. So it may appear that I am seeing things around me. All these are at certain distance. It's a nice perspective view. But actually all that is happening on that screen. This is a fantastic screen where we see this kind of a view. And not only through the sight, 5-dimensional images, sound, smell, taste, and touch also. So buddhi is the inner layer of mind, which is what I am always watching. That's where everything is happening, and that's my world as such. Like on my laptop, I do everything on my desktop screen. And of course, that is supported by the hard disk and many other processors, etc. But as far as I am concerned, this is my world, desktop. So that's what it is in some way in my head. So we are now analyzing certain functions that we do, and they are so obvious, we just take them for granted. But let's try to understand them. So one thing is there, in this desktop, on this mind screen, what I call intellect, or in Sanskrit, buddhi, we acquire knowledge from our surroundings. That's the job of my mind. It brings all kinds of information. And for that, we have 5 input channels. I write Sanskrit terms and also English translation. Oh yeah, desktop is there. No, the cursor. It's there on the lower line, but then no problem. I am just used to it. So when I want to have your attention on a particular word, I am used to taking the cursor to that word. But no problem. This bigger blue box is 5 sensory organs. So this is undeniable. Everybody will accept it that we have 5 senses that bring information of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. It somehow appears to me and I take cognizance of that information. So the only thing I am saying is I am sitting in a corner, the me and my tiny consciousness. And then I am watching the buddhi, that mind screen. And there the 5 channels send in the data. And once it appears on my screen, I say, I know it, I got it. Bodh ho jana, that is called bodhyati. That's what gives rise to the term buddhi. Okay. But then now henceforth, I will have quick glance through these slides, but each slide will come in pair. Now the same slide is coming again with a colored box. Now here there is an objection. What is the objection? Difference between seeing and noticing, hearing and listening, isn't it? Sometimes we hear a word, but we don't quite get its meaning. We think our ears heard something, but those words did not come up to the point of buddhi, so I did not quite get or could take cognizance of that. That's what would have been listening. It was merely hearing, no listening. It was merely seeing, but not quite noticing. So what is it? Let's look at a situation as if I am very much absorbed in seeing a picture, something like that, through my eyes, and somebody tells my name and utters a sentence. which I miss out because I was so much absorbed in seeing. This is something we have noticed in our day-to-day life. Then we ask that person, can you please repeat it? I think you said something I heard, but I was not able to pay due attention to it. So I missed the meaning. I was not quite listening to it. Then we ask him to repeat and he says it again. Now we pay attention to it. So this is something happens to in day-to-day life. That is the objection. What is being said is data from 5 channels does not reach me simultaneously. When I am too immersed in seeing an object, then I miss out certain sounds. That is an objection, is it not? Let me go backward because today we have too many slides. So I want to go slightly in a fast mode, but then I don't want to miss out anything. So I will make one-liner statements, and if you are too keen, you will have to see this presentation, review it again. But I have to go fast because we have 23 slides today. So, 5 sense organ, I'm coming back to this box. Chakshu is for sight. What I mean here is Chakshu is a technical term. It is an inlet port in my mind domain. This is not to be confused with my eyes which are visible. Okay. So what we will be looking at, we will talk something about 5, our mind, which is like these palms. It has 5 inlet ports and 5 outlet ports. So one inlet port is Chakshu. So what is happening is I see somebody through my eyes, say convex lens structure, inverted image falls on retina, then optic nerves and all that goes somewhere inside the brain. All too many complicated things happening. Finally, that sight image which I am seeing through my outer eyes appears on my buddhi. Is it not? So the word chakshu is not to be confused with my eyes. That is, in Sanskrit, we will call it netra. So chakshu and nayan. Shrote is my hearing channel, but my ears are called as karna. So, in Sanskrit, we have 2 words for all this. One is called Indi, Golak, the outer organs. One is that inlet port at the mind. So, this point I had missed out. So, I came back to this slide. Let's go to that objection. Now, the person is saying this diagram is not correct, is not correct representation of what we see in day-to-day life. All these 5 data channels cannot go direct to buddhi. Otherwise, I should get 5 sets of data every moment. That is not happening because when I am too much immersed in seeing, I miss out hearing. Is it not? So the objection is very valid. So I have to modify this diagram. So we say there is a link. There is a linkage. The Sanskrit term is manas. I put another box. What is his job? His job is to connect to one input channel at a time. So wherever, if I am seeing too much with paying attention on capturing the data from sight, that means my manas, this linkage, is connected to the inlet port of chakshu and is not connected to the inlet port of sound. So I miss out that data. Is it not? So this linkage will explain what we see in day-to-day life, that yes, I pick up data from one channel at a time, not simultaneously. There is a statement by Gautam in Nyaya Darshan, Yukpat jnana na bhavati manaso lingam. This manas is there because I don't acquire knowledge from 5 sensory organs simultaneously. That's why this box is there. Okay. So, but then somebody may ask, how come like you are able to see me as hear me? Is it not? You will say, I can see you as well as hear you simultaneously. The answer to that question is, this manas, which has that link, it scans through those 5 inlet ports in rapid succession at a very fantastic speed, almost speed of light or even faster. Why and how? So it picks up data from chakshu, the sight organ, and very next moment it picks up data from sound, from smell, so on and so forth. It just goes so fast and sends it inward. That comes to buddhi. So it gives you an appearance. So all this is, the whole this diagram is working at a very fantastic high speed. So you get a feeling you are seeing and hearing together. But it is one at a time that we have discussed. Now I move on. But then there is another objection. This cannot be the complete depiction of our situation because this diagram does not explain how do we remember things. If this is how buddhi gets all the data from real world, live information, I can close my eyes and then see the picture of my daughter, my son, my wife, so many other things. How come? Where is that data coming from? When my eyes are closed, but I have a picture from somewhere. So how do you explain that? So that requires another modification. There is another box now, the memory. I am putting the technical term also. These terms are coming from Sankhya. So this memory is called an ahankar. So what is happening? As the data coming from 5 channels picked up one at a time by the linkage, now it doesn't go to intellect direct. It goes to another device, another box, memory, ahankar. What is the job of ahankar? His job is, before he passes on to intellect, he makes its copy. He always does it. This is routine. So, if me, the tiny, my conscious, if I want to review the data, he is readily able to supply it to me. Of course, if I don't use it for long, it fades away. Then it deletes those files which are not going to be used. Otherwise, for routine function, he always makes a copy of it. So this is now another box. So now the data retention in memory. So I pick up my linkage picks up a data from one channel, sends it to Ankar, where he makes a copy and projects it to the intellect, and I say, I got it. Oh, I can put my finger here. But I don't know if the people there are able to see it. No problem. So this is how I am working. Particularly, we are looking at me and my mind, that thumb in a fist. Let's move on. But then this is not complete picture. We have looked at the ability to know. But once something comes here, I am a conscious being. I know it and then it affects me. If I see my daughter, I feel good. If I see somebody exploding a device, I want to run away. I have a fear. So, I go through all kinds of emotions, is it not? So we go through countless varieties of emotions, particularly joy and pain. This diagram doesn't seem to describe it. How do we modify it? So we say that I am non-material, tiny con, which goes through no transformation. But all this is happening in my mind, my buddhi, which shows like a cinema. It's changing. Every moment, things are changing on my intellect, on my mind. And that makes me go through varieties of emotions. So, something is happening in my intellect, that desktop, and that has certain characteristics that make me go through these varieties of experience. So the postulate is made that this is made of matter, primary matter, the yellow box, that is called prakriti, which is matter in its very primary state. Out of that, This is the first particle made, namely Buddhi, which functions as my desktop. Now, it is conjectured that Prakriti has three strata. Prakriti is not just oneness. It is three in one, so to say. They have name, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. At this point, they are just names. So, Prakriti is a situation when they are in balance. Now, when Buddhi is constructed out of it, an ability that these three parameters can fluctuate. They are not in equilibrium. One dominates over other two, and sometimes the second one dominates over other two, and so on and so forth. To give you an example, I like to describe this situation with the color scale. We know they are infinite colors, almost infinite, really infinite, because that is a length, wavelength. So wavelength can go in an axis. Any line is made of infinite points, so no problem. They are infinite colors. But color scientists, they tell us that there are three primary colors, blue, yellow, and red. Depending on how you mix them, what are their individual proportions, you can create any color, infinite kinds. So look at this as that kind of a situation. Prakriti has three strata, and they represent, the Sanskrit terms were Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And for a moment, you can take them as Sattva gives rise to joy, Rajas gives rise to pain, and Tamas is like inertia, dormancy. If Sattva is dominating, like a child is smiling. If Rajas is dominating, somebody is doing hard work in hot sun. You can see from his face, Klantamukh. That is Rajas is dominating. Toward the end of the evening, we are yawning and then we want to go to bed. Then Tamas is dominating. So these are three extremes, but any combination of that, any emotion you have, so the joy, pain, and dormancy are three extremes, but they can create a wide spectrum. Like three colors can create a wide, infinite kind of color. That's what is happening. So we have seen that how I acquire knowledge in day-to-day life with this indicate blue boxes and that intellect. Because if Sattva is dominating, that will make me feel cheerful, good, smiling. If Rajas is dominating, I am tired. I don't want to perform that workout more. And Tamas means it's enough of the day. So all these three are three corners, but they are mixing can give rise to any emotion you have had in your life. You cannot get away from this. So that describes that. Let's move. And again, now the person is asking, this is about me, the subject. Where do these data come from? What am I seeing? What am I hearing? So the color box is saying our sensory organ must be picking up data emanated by objects in universe. So if that package gives rise to buddhi, ahankar, manas, and five sensory organs, then that is matter. This all my mind and all these fantastic organs are made of matter. Then what is in this scheme, this schematic, how do these worldly objects come from? So that is the question, not quite an objection, an observation by being made, and I must provide an answer. So I say now I put a green box here, which are five elements. The magic number 5 comes from five senses we have. Nobody can deny five senses. So it is postulated. Look at this carefully. My sight organ, Sanskrit term is chakshu, the first one in the blue box. That is capturing the signal and that is receiving. That has some kind of antenna. that captures signal. Where are those signals coming from? So the scientist, this particular scientist, his name is Kapil, author of Sankhya, he says the data is coming from an element called Agni. That is first line in the green box. So green box is objective world. Blue boxes are my subjective organs. And my chakshu, my sight organ, picks up certain data. So the corresponding element in the objective world is called Agni. Of course, I could have translated as fire, but I will not do it. Like this chair is in front of me, I can see it. The fact I can see it, it means it has Agni there. And those data coming into my eyes and then being processed by chakshu, and finally I am able to see the chair. So if I translate it as fire, it doesn't make sense. There is no fire there. But I am trying to tell you the word Agni is a technical term here. If somebody translates fire, it doesn't quite mean literally fire. It's just English word for Agni. Just like Agni, if you open a Sanskrit dictionary, it will say fire. But here it is a technical term. Agni is an element that sends out certain signals which can be captured by my chakshu. And the name of that signal is called Roop. So it's just ahead of Agni, I have put in parenthesis Roop. Roop is basically shape and form. We say Roopwati Kanya, a girl who is beautiful. But that Roop is different. Here Roop is the data signal that is coming from that element Agni, which is there in the chair and in all these visible objects. So that way you could construct 5 combinations. Like Vayu is an element that sends in sparsh and my touch organ picks up when I touch something. So Akash is a Shabda and my Shota, my hearings, picks it up. So these are 5 kinds of combinations you can make it. But that much is enough for today. So that is the way it is. I live in this world made out of those 5 elements. I get to know these things in the world and go through various emotions. A lot of things have been described. But again, the student or that inquisitive person has an idea. He says how these 5 elements are formed because they are made of matter. My mind is also made of matter, which is coming from Prakriti. Then how do you complete this diagram? Prakriti giving rise to those 5 elements. So to answer that, I put another box. Actually, I am not doing it. All this is coming from Sankhya by Kapil. So he puts another box. That smaller green box is called 5 Tanmatra. Tanmatra is Tat plus Matra. It is very nascent stage of those elements which are called Panchbhut also. 5 element Bhut. So those 5 elements are made out of 5 Tanmatra. So that is the sequence. So somebody will ask, how is it happening? Why it couldn't be made out of Ahankar direct? Why couldn't be it made by Buddhi? Incidentally, I have added one more name for Buddhi, namely Mahat. Is it not? So 5 subtle elements make 5 gross elements. And then the title of the slide is Buddhi is Mahat as well. I'll take it one after another. Let's call it as Buddhi only, the first blue box sitting next to me. That is Buddhi. The word Mahat I will take up later. As you know, this is my desktop where the information, the picture comes and goes, just like a cinema screen. It doesn't stay there. It has no capability to retain anything. It merely exhibits the knowledge instantaneous. Ahankar retains the knowledge, is it not? So it is a slightly gross particle which can retain certain characteristics. So 5 elements could not be made out of Mahat. Yes, they could be made out of Ahankar because that has retention property. Now why not direct from Ahankar to 5 elements? Now these are subtle elements. As you see, all the blue boxes are subtle organs, indicate organs where the data is being processed once it has been captured by my sensory organ. The data is coming from gross element like a chair, desk, and all these things. So this, what is called Panchbhut, is gross element. Ahankar is a subtle element. So Ahankar could not have given rise to 5 gross elements direct. That will mean twofold transition, subtle becoming gross, and also 1 to 5, is it? So there has to be one box. That's why Kapil is putting Panch Tanmatya in between. So Ahankar to Panch Tanmatya is subtle to subtle. Tanmatya is subtle part of Agni. So imagine, it is very imaginary thing. Imagine subtle Agni that is sitting in the smaller green box. Subtle Vayu, subtle Prithvi, subtle Apa, subtle Akar. They are subtle, so they were made out of Ahankar. Now this is reasonable, 1 to 5 transition, but subtle to subtle. Now from 5 Tanmatya to 5 gross element is subtle to gross. So this is how Kapil is making this schematic diagram, which seems to be making sense. Let's proceed further. Again, there is a query, not quite objection, because we have dealt with the data acquisition of knowledge from the objective world, going through emotions, how the objective world could have been made from 5 gross elements. They came from 5 subtle elements from Ahankar. So all the schematic is okay, but then there was another function we do, knowledge, experience, and we act out. I can push a table. How do I act? In this scheme of diagram, it doesn't seem to be working. So that's what that color box is saying. Besides knowledge and experience, we act. So how do you explain that? Now there are new boxes, and let me explain that. So the blue boxes I have not disturbed. I have not changed anything. Green box as it is. Actually, I moved here and there because I needed space for this orange color box. So orange color box are just like I have 5 sensory organs, 5 input channels. There are 5 output ports. That is called 5 motor organs. The Sanskrit term is Hasta, Pad, Vak, Upastha, and Payu. Hasta I could have translated as hand, but I did not translate it. I translated as manipulation. Why? Just simple, I don't want to go into detail. Like say I want to go out of this hall, I can push the door using my hand. Is it not? Now sometimes I am carrying some bags, then I push the door using my elbow or using my shoulder or using even I have some lot of weight, a big cart in 2 hands, then I go backward, I push through my buttocks and then door open. Is it not? We do all that. So in whichever way I have opened the door, the organ that has functioned is hasta. Though physically it is not always hands, is it not? So just like Chakshu had a very technical term, Hasta has a technical term. So I think you will be able to understand. Like path, I don't want to translate as feet. Usually we transport ourselves walking. But say somebody, there is a soldier in the battlefield, he will be crawling, he will be rolling. So, he is using the motor organ of path, but not necessarily through the feet. He is transporting himself in a various different manner. So this is what is the reason of all that. Description, the blue boxes are connected by a thin arrow because it is one at a time. Is it not? We have discussed 5 input channels, but the linkage, the manas, the link is capturing data from one at a time. But when it wants to activate the motor organs, it can activate more than one at a time. Is it not? Say I am walking, holding a bag in my right hand, my right shoulder gets tired, I continue to walk and shift my bag to the left. Is it not? So my walking is going on and I manipulate also. I speak also while walking. Is it not? And importantly, even though I am walking, I can talk to somebody on phone. That time my buddhi is working on detailed thinking and discussion. But my walking is going on. That is why the walking is initiated with a thicker diagram. So you know this, if you look at this orange box, it is pushed by a bigger arrow because it doesn't have to be one at a time. It can be multiple excitation of output ports. And it is initiating from ahankar. Why? Because as I described this situation, I am walking as well as discussing, talking to somebody on phone. So as far as my desktop, my Mahat is concerned, Buddhi, I have to come back to that. Why Mahat and Buddhi, 2 names? And now I am giving a third name, Chitta also, one at a time. I missed out that Mahat versus Buddhi. I'll go back to that slide and tell again, but let me complete this picture now. Know, experience and act. Add buddhi, add consciousness and ahankar. Is it not? So first I am trying to explain to you there's thicker arrow that activation of motor organs can have multiplicity. That is the issue. And it is getting initiated from ahankar. So let me ask your attention to the title of the slide. Title, now this slide is final slide. So it is describing all my 3 functions: ability to know, ability to experience and act. And that is happening. The junction points are respectively buddhi, tiny consciousness and ahankar. At this point I was looking at this orange box. So I am talking about action oriented. And what I am saying is ahankar is initiating, taking care of my walking, changing back from one hand to another, and also I am talking to somebody on phone. Is it not? Since the fact is I am talking to somebody on phone, discussing, it means my buddhi is functional. Buddhi is no more activating ahankar. That thin oil diagram is not functioning. But still I continue to walk and do other operations. That means my action is initiated from ahankar. I hope I have explained it. And my knowledge, I started the first slide with these blue boxes, that I take cognizance of a information once it comes to the buddhi. So buddhi is the location where the data comes, and now I cannot deny I did not know it. I know it. Is it not? Now the second one, know, experience and act. Experiencing the joy and pain, that is happening at the TC level. So even though data is there, I have, if I am mature, if the data is bad, say it is the news I am seeing on TV, 25 people died and all that. Some sort of a thing, bad events are happening. It comes on my buddhi. But if I am not careful, then that information its image falls on me and I participate in it. I also feel bad, I start crying and all. But if I have the maturity, I maintain that detachment, then I don't have to cry. I know that event has happened, but I don't let it affect me. So that proves my buddhi. The level of experience is when it gets registered at TC. If it is only at buddhi level, I don't have to be affected by that event. Title of know, experience and act, where respectively at buddhi, tiny consciousness and ahankara. I have described that. Now I have to explain 25 elements of Sankhya. This is famous statement of Kapil in Sankhya, Sattvajas tamas samyavastha prakete prakete man mahato ahankar then ubhayam indriyam panch tanmatya panch bhuta iti panchvashiti panchvinshanti gana. This is his periodic table of 25 elements. And he says this will describe all the events in the world. That's why we are saying this is Vedic unified theory of matter and consciousness. To count quickly, all these big boxes, big green, two green boxes, 5 plus 5, orange box 5, big blue box 5. They make 20. Manas 21, Ahankar 22, that Buddhi 23, Prakriti 24, and myself, actually it is Purush 25. So Purush is a tiny consciousness at this stage. As we'll proceed, there is another infinite consciousness that is called by Patanjali as Purush Vishesha Ishvara. So at this point it is consciousness Purush. This is 25 elements of Sankhya. Then I coined a new term as well as science of sciences. Is it not? So in this diagram I want to say all the science, modern science, is getting to know the material world, that green box, to finest accuracy. That is what is scientific investigation. Following the Kapil's and Vedic approach, we are trying to learn more than that what is in the world. All this is also in the world, myself, my consciousness, my mind, all these intricate instruments. Somebody has somehow packed with, enveloped me in this manner that I can function like this. And by the way, I must say, this green box of 5 elements is my body frame also. In our terminology, in Vedic terminology, my body, my external world is not this world outside the chair and the hall. Even this body is external world, which is also made of these 5 elements. And I also see my body, I go through all this. So, this is also an object of interest to me, is it not? So these are, so what I'm saying is, if we can together say that this is a scientific theory, then this whole thing I will say is science of sciences, because all the sciences are in this green box, and we are trying to develop a science which can encompass everything in the universe. So if we are successful, that will be science of science. Now I should go backward, but I don't have to go because I missed out Mahat as well as Buddhi. I can cover that here too. I don't have to go back. And then I have added another term here in the previous slide, Chitta. So I have to explain that. But I'll go very quickly because we have 10 more slides in 20 minutes. I have to go fast. So let's see. Now there is a first particle, this is X. So yeah, I cannot take my cursor, but from yellow box, what is formed is the first particle. That is originally called by Kapil as Mahat. In English translation, I call it Gates principle. But then you may say, all this time I was calling it Buddhi. Is it? I was calling it buddhi as my personal instrument. That is what is I am enveloped with it. Is it not? Now in this diagram, let's look at its mahat, and then it will become obvious to you why there are two names to it. Because out of this mahat only, we have to construct the objective world also. So the general term for this box is mahat. That follows the root, because in this world there are billions of particles, trillions and all, which comprise of the external world where we live. Even our body is billions of cells, and my buddhi is one tiny cell only, one element only, is it not? So for every buddhi there will be multiple trillions of other elements, is it not? So the mahat is a general term, and generally it follows the upper root. Out of one mahat, one ahankar will be made. Then panchtanmat there, then one element will be. One of the five, one of the five, is it not? So most of the time this will follow the upper root. That is why it is called mahat. But so mahat is like a basic brick out of which so many things will be constructed, and there is a special brick out of which my buddhi will be made. That is one in trillion, is it not? So mahat is a general term, and buddhi is a specific instrument of mind. That is a special mahat. Why is it a special mahat? Please listen to this carefully. Because this is where all my emotions are happening. And buddhi is made such that it is basically rich in sattva. As we saw, sattva gives rise to joy. Is it not? Today I may not be like that, but as a child when I was natural, our default state was a smiling child, is it? If you look at a small baby, small child, 1, 2, 3 year old, unless there is a problem, the child is smiling. Why? Because the buddhi is rich in sattva. That's how it is made. But when we grow old, our buddhi also has picked up all kinds of that instrument. The skin is also picking up dirt, so to say. Is it not? Its inherent character has changed slightly. Now we are not just smiling always. Very few people have permanent natural smile, is it not? But a child has. What does that mean? Buddhi is basically rich in sattva. While all the upper diagrams, they will not be. Some will be rich in sattva, some will be rich in tamas. Like a stone is rich in tamas. Air is rich in rajas, and so on and so forth. So general mahat will be of all kinds, but buddhi is special mahat, rich in sattva. That's why there are two names here. Now somebody can ask me, why did I use the third term here, chitta? Again, I have to be brief here. Buddhi is what is called nishchayatmak vritti, where I conclude, is it a chair or a desk? Is it a filament light, or is it a lamp with a filament, or with the vapor of sodium vapor and this and that? Whenever we see an object, we conclude, is this a man or woman? Is this a boy or a man? Whenever we see a person, we want to quickly conclude. So that is happening at buddhi. And when it concludes, there is a very fast exchange of data between buddhi and ahankar. Because I have previous knowledge about those objects, and they come and then I compare. This is 4 legs, but there is a back. A desk doesn't have a back, hence this is a chair. I have prior information, all that is stored in my memory. So my buddhi is working with ahankar and with my 5 sensory organs, real life, and we quickly conclude everything. So buddhi is called nishchayatmak vritti, where it discriminates. That is our discriminatory ability. But as we did before the start of the session, we want to sit for meditation or at any other time. In meditation, what do we want to do? We want all the functions of buddhi to die out. If there are thoughts, if I am planning something, I tell my mind, this is time to meditate. I will plan all this later. Please stop all. I try to remove all the functions here. All they are gross functions of buddhi which are thinking. If I am successful slightly in meditation, all the buddhi operations are died out. But as many of you know, if you are a regular meditation practitioner, now there are no distinct thoughts. I am not thinking anything. Nothing appear on my buddhi skin. Is it not? And then I, as a meditation teacher, always try to say, don't characterize that image. If you are characterizing, you are again trying to give it a name. Again, that will be an operation of buddhi. So you want to be away from thinking operation. So you learn some of this and you are meditating. There is an image there, some cloud-like, something is there, and you know it. You should not characterize it. But you know it, something is there. Now that something is where? Now, listen to this carefully. That image is not falling on buddhi because buddhi is not doing its discriminatory function. You are good in meditation, it is an image. It is a vritti, but it is not on buddhi because that instrument is not working as buddhi. You are good in meditation, you have subdued all the thinking operation, but still something is there. Now that is whose function? Who is displaying that? I cannot say buddhi is displaying it because if it was buddhi, buddhi will go in thinking mode. So we give it another name, chitta. So chit is the another name of buddhi when it is in the way minimum way form functions, very nascent functions of buddhi. We indicate issues. That's why Patanjali says yoga is chitta vritti. All the vrittis of chitta has to. So he's assuming you are not thinking anymore. Let's move on quickly. Oh my God. Yeah, I could go there. Very quickly. Mind, TC is mind and body. What do we call it mind? Now, I cannot go back to those diagrams. Or if I go back, blue boxes, the smaller one. Buddhi, Ahankar and Manas. They together constitute what is called mind as a mind aggregate. So mind consists of Buddhi, alternate Chitta, whatever you call it, Ahankar and Manas. This is also called a subtle body, Sukshma Sharira. These are some terminology. As I described earlier, TC plus mind shell is enveloped by a gross body. This is what we commonly call as body. So in this nomenclature, the brain is a part of the body. So that is called gross body, sthul sharir. Kapil gives a fantastic example. A picture frame can only hang on a wall. So, we need this gross body so that that shell of TC and mind can be put somewhere, is it not? Like a picture frame is mounted on a wall, otherwise it will be just isolated. So that is why we need this body frame, and then this body has many fantastic things and heart and liver, kidney and whatnot, bone structure. So that is somebody has done all. Thus, we are a composite of body, mind, and TC, functional by non-voluntary force. And just throwing in some concepts, because there are some non-voluntary forces always there, which I am not doing consciously, like my heartbeat, my breathing, etc. So I'm not just body, mind, and TC. There is something more in the background, so that we have to be conscious of. And in this Vedic unified theory, it is called as pranic forces, pranic domain. 5 members, pran, apan, vyan, saman, and udam. So let's move on. There was one more item there. Yeah. TC functions in a tiny domain that is constantly pervaded by IC. This is important. That's where you will see towards the later part of the course why there is a problem in having a dialogue with modern scientists. Because I am not just body, mind, and TC. Within this structure, there is another force working, what we call a power, and that is due to that infinite consciousness. So, I am nowhere alone. So, wherever my consciousness is functioning, he is also functioning as the background force. That's why, so, there is a whole infinite set. I am a tiny micro organism, a small subset, but I am within that gigantic set. I am nowhere absolutely alone. So nowhere I could say I am doing it consciously of my own. Even if I am raising my hand, it seems seemingly such an ordinary event. I need a lot of support from that pranic domain. Is it not? If my pran collapses, I will be a dead body. So I need a help and cooperation from that agency. That's why and with cooperation of with his help, I am able to do something. I alone do nothing. That's why these are the problems, but we have to understand what jargon we are getting into. Some misunderstandings, distortions. Just chit is different from buddhi. This is a very common, if you pick up any book on Vedic concepts, on Sankhya, on yoga and all, a lot of people say manas, ahankar, buddhi and chitta. 4. And they have coined a term, this whole fourfold thing, antakaran chatushta. They haven't understood that chitta is same as buddhi, but when it is at its bare minimum functions. A lot of authors interpret ahankar as ego, because this term is our modern Indian language. But this is a technical term. We have seen it functioning as our memory. This is a compound word as kumbham karoti iti kumbhakaya. So Sanskrit word is kumbhakar, who is a potter. What does he do? It is made out of a noun and verb. Noun is kumbham, verb is karoti. Kumbhakar, he makes the kumbha, is it? Earthen pot, is it not? So one who makes that is called kumbhakara. Swarnakar, Charamkar, there are so many words like this. So ahankar is similar to that. What does it mean? This makes my aham. So ahankar is that box which I was showing you. That makes my aham, me. What is me? My personality. My consciousness is like yours. Our chit is almost same. It's like desktop. It has no content. But our personality is residing in our ahankar. That's our memory. That's where all my views, opinions, ideas, knowledge, skill, everything, the way I drive, all my signatures, the way I write, the way I walk, everything is stored in my ahankar. Hence, that is called ahankar. That is me. Manas is also translated as, oh, now it's okay. Manas is translated, interpreted as mind. That's okay. As long as person knows that this is not the aggregate mind. Is it not? So aggregate mind is manas, ahankar, and buddhi put together. So manas I have translated as linkages. Brain functions as mind and consciousness. This is, I will say, this is what mainstream is saying. That this brain is the reservoir of mind. Of course, my mind and consciousness are within this, but they are independent of brain. So that's where we need to have a discussion with them. TC plus mindset. Now there is a word heart. There's a lot of confusion. Please listen to this carefully. That TC plus mind that was a shell is located in heart. I am borrowing a statement from Yajurveda 34. There are 6 mantras with Tanmay Manashush. The last 6 one, Hit Patishtam Yadajayam Javistam Tanmay. So this is where it is said, where is your mind? Mind is in heart. Hit. So this word is hit. Sanskrit word hit. This is not hidaya. Hit. Okay? So hit is a place mind is stationed. Is it not? So that my mind is my palm. This is where it is. Where the hit is there. My soul is there, of course. My consciousness is there. That's what is described in the Yajurveda. Now this is where, this is the heart. My consciousness is the heart. Indeed, my consciousness is the heart of the whole system. If it departs, I am dead. So that is the real heart. English word heart must have come from hit, is it not? Now this heart is also stated as Hidi Ayam. Ayam is this, me. Where is it? Hidi, within the heart. So the word becomes Hidayam. This is a sentence. What is this? This is saying, I live in my heart. The word Hidayam here means this is where TC is. This is the meaning. Now the confusion is this pumping heart, the last line. Hidayam means pumping heart too. Hidayam. So people think that my consciousness, my mind, that shell is in this heart, the pumping heart. No. Now these two red colors, what does it mean? This is same thing as light, lamp and light. This is same thing as Purush and his consciousness. What is Purush? Who has consciousness? What is consciousness? That is Purush. So this is the situation here. My heart, head, is where that mind and shell are living. And where they are located? In the heart. So their location and heart is same, but this is not pumping heart. This is not that physical organ. Is it? Somewhere in this head region, a tiny corner, that is where this is. Now the thing is, like many Sanskrit words, interesting, this pumping heart, why is it called Hidaya? This is called Hidaya not because Hidi and I am, not because of Hit Patishta. This is called because of, it is compound word of 3. Here, the and here. Like Jagat is made of Jagata. This is like that. He is to receive, earn, to acquire. It picks up blood from whole body. It acquires. The is to deliver gift, dadati. It then delivers blood. And ya is yati, it moves on. It is always vibrating, is it not? That's why pumping heart is called Hidayam. But this is not to be confused with the heart where I am located. Let's go quickly. Proof for tiny consciousness. That is, who enjoys experience? Because I have said enjoyment is finally at me. We quickly look at these 3 experiences which we are familiar with in day-to-day life, enjoying food and body and mind participating. Joy of a technical discovery or some creative ideas, so-called Eureka moment. Body is more or less inactive, but mind is active. Then this is deep, dreamless sleep, Sushupti. Both body and mind are inactive, void of conscious functions. So who is the common entity who is enjoying in all these 3 cases? Here body, mind were functional. Here mind is functional. Here none is functional. So it must be that common factor is that non-physical tiny consciousness. That is what is enjoying every time. Here with the help of body and mind. Here only with mind. Here of itself. Vivek Khyati and evidence of tiny. That is what is meditation. So another validation is deep in meditation, when one is disconnected from mind, then the prevailing awareness is that of TC, self-realization. That's why we give importance to meditation. It has a lot of worldly benefits, but finally, this is what can validate my own who I am, my consciousness. Very quickly, 1 or 2 minutes extra, not more. समझिए, non-physical tiny consciousness is a point-like singularity with powers to know, experience, and act. TC is enveloped in a tiny shell of mind that includes buddhi, chitta, one layer, innermost layer, middle layer of ahankar, and outer layer of manas. TC must be there because one enjoys absolute happiness in deep sleep and meditation when body and mind are non-functional. I brought a Ved mantra today. Vayu anilam ammetam etadam basmantam shayeyam. Om keto ismaya kliba ismaya ketam. Yajurved 40th chapter 15th mantra. It beautifully describes, I have been packed into this mortal body, but I am immortal, non-physical. I am told you are Vayu, strong force, anilam, non-material, metam. Hence you go through no transformation, no possibility of death, because death is only a transformation, is it? And now, thereon, you are enveloped with this body, which is idam bhasma antam shaya, which will have an end. And at the end, it becomes a bhasma, a handful of ash. So the Vayu Anilam Ammetam has no end, body has an end. Then we are told Om Keto Ismaya. Remember that Om, the force who has packed me beautifully like this and has made this universe, Kiliba Ismaya, all the potentials he gave me, beautiful schematic diagrams we have seen. Ketam Ismaya, what karma I have performed. Thank you for your attention. That takes me back to the webinar room. We'll meet again a week later. Have a good time.